Welcome back to the channel, Adventures Through Climate Change with your host, Trevor Snyder. That is me. I'm the only one that hosts, so I don't know why I introduce myself every time, because maybe we have new people. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, this is unedited talks about climate change. We watch other people's fantastic videos, so if you don't want to subscribe to me, I totally understand. You should at least subscribe to the original ones that we're watching. They deserve the subscribe and like, because they're the ones that put in the work. This channel right here, I would love that too. But this is to build a community. I'll probably never monetize it unless I produce my own videos and edit it and all that stuff. If I put in work, then I feel like I deserve money. But at this point, we're developing a relationship with each other where you could either love me or hate me, disagree with me, agree with me. It could be on different topics. It doesn't really matter. We're just discussing what the heck's going on. So today, actually, and I forgot to put that on right there. Oh, so, wow, there we go. Right there. It's a commercial. Today we're watching a commercial, and it's gonna be pretty good. It looks like stuff in the garage. Ooh, that lady's talking right there. Let's put that over here from the very beginning. We'll turn that off. What are we doing? France 24 English. Okay, France 24 English. I've never heard of them. We're gonna subscribe. They got 20. I don't know what this is about. They only got 9 comments. They probably bought this, because otherwise you're not gonna have 2.66 million subscribers, right? They probably bought this YouTube account. Doesn't matter. Let's see if this has anything to do with it. If it doesn't, then I'm not going to post this video anyways. Otherwise, if it's got some good information, I'd love to hear about it, because carbon inequality, emissions of richest 1%, twice that of poorest 50%. That title right there captured my imagination, because as I put in rich people versus poor people and climate footprint, okay, that's what I wanted to know. I want to know, when we demonize these people over in Germany for having to use coal to heat their earth, how dare them? How much footprint are they actually putting down? And because all these World Economic Forum people all flew in on private jets, then they flew all their ladies in the night in on their private jets so that they could have a good time and party and do all that other garbage stuff. What role are they having doing that type of stuff when these other people just want to stay warm? Let's listen.
Time now for today's perspective. Well, they make up just 1% of the world's population, but produce more pollution than the poorest 50%. The rich are racing through Earth's finite carbon budget, which scientists warn could run out within a decade. That's the warning of a new report from Oxfam. We can speak now to Climate and Energy Advocacy Manager at that NGO, Armand Lecomte, to find out a bit more. Ms. Lecomte, thanks for your time. The statistics are certainly stark. Can you tell us a bit more about them and how this conclusion was reached?
Yes, it is indeed shocking revelation from this report.
Is that in France?
And exactly as you said, we've seen that the overconsumption of a wealthy minority is fueling the climate crisis. And what we did for this report is that we took consumption emission, and we attribute consumption emission associated with goods and services that are consumed in a particular country. So for instance, if a TV is produced in China but exported to France, then all the emissions produced to make that TV are allocated to France. And so we took all those...
Hold on, time out. I don't know if you caught on to what she said. So what they're doing to figure this out is, if the TV is used and find its final destination in France, even though it was produced in China, they're using all those emissions that were used to produce it in China over in France. So they moved that over. So it doesn't matter who produces the stuff, okay? It doesn't matter. It's consumption.
Emission, and we allocated them to individuals within those countries based on revenues. And what we see is that as people income increase, so do their emission footprint. And and the result is that indeed the richest 1% was responsible for more than twice as much carbon pollutions as the poorest 50% people in the planet. That means 1% is twice as much than 3 billion people.
So increased income means increased consumption.
1% of the population, which is, let's see, 8 billion. So that would be 80, or 1% would be 80 million. All right, 80 million people versus 3 billion. So 80 million people do the same amount of, or do twice the polluting as 50%. So at this point, as 4 billion. I know that doesn't seem like that big a difference, 80 million versus 4 billion, but that is a crap ton difference.
Means more pollution, and it looks like we're going completely in the wrong direction when you look at your report, because not only are you saying it's the rich that are polluting more, the carbon dioxide emissions up 60% in the 25-year period studied.
Yes, the period we chose to look at is interesting because in 1990 was the first report by the IPCC, so the scientific body from the UN looking at climate change. So it means that in 1990 we already knew about climate change, and 2015 is when countries signed the Paris Agreement just 5 years ago. And during that period, the amount of carbon dioxide emitted in the atmosphere doubled. It means that during those 25 years, we emitted the same amount of carbon dioxide as the previous 140 years, and the half of those emissions came from the richest 10%. And so it shows that it's really this wealthy minority which is driving climate change.
So do you think carbon taxes should be put more on rich people, or were carbon taxes the idea as somewhat of a mistake, as the rich people and countries can simply buy them and aren't really paying real heed to the actual crisis?
Yeah, well, the urgency that we see, just this morning we heard that the Arctic sea ice is shrinking to near record low.
That's not what she asked.
It's not just moral outrage at this wealthy minority, but it's also the urgency to act. And so we need government to seize the opportunity of post-COVID-19 bailout to tackle inequality and climate crisis at the same time. And so yes, we need government to both reduce the richest emission, and so it means taxes, it means bans on carbon luxury
It always means
goods,
more taxes
like
for the poor.
SUVs, for instance, or frequent flights. Transport is the biggest driver of the richest emission. So we need to see that, but we also need government to invest massively in public services, in low carbon sector, like public transport, like energy, renewable energy, because we need to see change everywhere, but we need to see radical change in the way the richest live in the world.
Okay, but here's the thing is, all those things that she proposed disproportionately affect poor people. And what I mean, okay, government, you want the government to do all this stuff to pay for all these programs and stuff. Where does the government get their money? They get it from the taxes from the people. And okay, so now you say tax the rich people, right? Okay. Where do they move their money? Where do they go? What do they spend it on? How do they avoid? I know that, when my parents own businesses and stuff, they're like, we have a certain amount of profit at the end of the year. We either have to spend it or we lose it. You figure out for employees or, bonuses, you figure out equipment that you need for work and all that stuff. But with the government, what they do is they either raise taxes and or inflation goes up, and they figure it out. They overprint money. They just print checks that their butt can't cash, and inflation goes up, and that disproportionately affects poor people. They can't afford food and gas and heat and clothes and the minimal things that they need to survive. So this lady, like, every answer she has is only going to come down to disproportionately affecting the poor people once again. And that's the problem I have with all this crap.
Indeed, high flyers, literally then what you're saying,
high flyers.
A very big a part of the problem. But the other side of the coin is a lot of the poorer countries in general use up more and more fossil fuels. So I imagine action needs to be taken on that level as well.
Yes, of course. As I said, we need to see radical changes from everyone, not just in the richest country, although they need to make the most changes, but also it's important to support the poorer economies to develop in a sustainable way. And so it means that, especially if you look at Africa, for instance, there's a huge potential in terms of renewable energy, in terms of solar and wind-related energy. And so we need to support those countries to develop in a sustainable way that will allow us to limit global warming below 1.5 degrees, which is enshrined in the Paris Agreement. So financial support from the richest economy to poorer economy is also crucial.
Indeed, this Paris Agreement that the US officially leaves as of November, what difference will that lead to? I mean, it's one of the biggest polluters.
This is obviously old because President Trump was the one that left the Paris Climate Accord, and the reason he left was because the United States was disproportionately paying for most of the stuff for everybody, and the issue is that you try to get other countries to bring up their abilities to prevent carbon or whatever, prevent pollution in any way, and it ends up bringing or basically making them less impoverished, which means we just heard them say earlier in the video, which means that they end up polluting more. So it's actually had a reverse effect, the way we've been spending money like that. So I'm really confused, but from my understanding, President Biden put us back in the Paris Climate Accord, so we're back underneath there. So let's see what they have to say.
In the planet, targets have regularly been set internationally, and they've regularly been missed.
My friend used to pay $163 for car insurance. Now look how much he pays.
Not my commercial, not my ad.
Yes, it's true. And when you look at where we are 5 years after the Paris Agreement, it's not a very cheerful moment, to be honest. And the fact that for the past 4 years the US have, even if they're still officially part of the Paris Agreement, have not taken seriously climate change in the US. When you look at what's happening in California, in Florida, this is a major problem. But other countries should not, use this as a reason for not acting. So the result of the US election is obviously going to be crucial in terms of the momentum that it can set. And so we know that in the lead up to the Paris Agreement, the relationship between China and the US was crucial to create that momentum in other regions of the world. So it's true that it's going to be an important moment, but other country, other region, for instance, the European Union, can already act and take the right decision in terms of where they decide to, in which sector they decide to support in this moment.
Finally, how large do you see the weight of individual action in all of this? On one hand, it seems like such a tiny drop in the ocean of it all.
Well, individual choices are important and can make a difference. If you decide to fly less, if you decide to cycle to go to work, if you live in a city, that can actually make a difference. But it's not enough. The urgency shows us that we need systemic changes, and that's why we can't simply reboot our economies like before COVID-19, and we need government to seize this opportunity to actually reshape our economy to benefit all of us. And so that's why we need investment in public services, in low carbon sectors. Individual choices matter, but they are not going to be enough.
Armand Lecomte of Oxfam France, thanks very much indeed for taking time out to speak to us here on France 24.
Thank you.
You're watching Live.
You okay? I thought the video was pretty odd because they went on how basically the 1% are responsible for basically most of the pollution. And then how the 1% are basically the ones running the Paris Climate Agreement. And the 1% are basically running the world. They're the politicians. They're the everybody, and yet they're the problem. So I don't know what to say to these people when they say we need to give more money to the same people that are already making the decisions and already have the money. Like, I don't know what it doesn't make sense in my head. It in fact, it gives me a headache. It gives me a headache to hear that. I don't agree. I think that she was right. We all have a personal responsibility. Okay. I do not like seeing litter on the ground. And my kids and I, when we walk and we go to the park or we go anywhere, if we see litter, we pick it up and then we find the closest trash and we throw it away, because I do think it's our personal responsibility to have a beautiful landscape and environment. And even though that's not like when we're talking about climate change, that type of pollution, it is unsightly. You know, it all adds up. I think we all feel a personal responsibility when we do clean up that type of stuff. And when it looks nice, I think it makes us feel better. And we even feel better about ourselves because we helped clean it up, right? And I think that's a big part of why we like climate changes. We are helping to clean up the earth. We are doing a good job. We are doing our good deeds. Yay. Let's pat on the back. We are so virtuous. I think that has a big thing to do with what people think about climate change nowadays too, because people run high on passion and low on logic these days. Not that I know it all, okay, and I'm not claiming to know it all. It just seems like there's a lot bigger picture, and everybody wants to look at these individual things so individualistic that it doesn't make sense anymore. I think that this video, the way it was titled, it should have came down to the fact that the 1% need less responsibility over climate change and maybe to live more like the poorest 50%, you know. Obviously, like they said, the poorest 50% are probably in Africa and India, you know, in the Middle East, and they might not even have, you know, running water. They might have running water at this point. You know, they probably don't have electricity in their standard houses off the, you know. So I don't know. Those people obviously aren't the problem with, if there is a problem with climate change. We are. But I blame the people in charge right now. Okay. Anyways, with that being said, we're going to catch plenty of videos. This one was a good one to end on. I like to end most Fridays on comedy ones, but obviously this isn't a comedy. This was kind of just one of those. I thought it was a good one to pull together what we had watched for the week. If you follow every day, then you can follow along the steps we're taking and what we're looking at. I tend to group things up to some extent to get both sides, videos close together on both sides and what we think and whatnot. So I thought this was a good one to end after we watched the Al Gore thing, what Al Gore's 2 cents on it was. So with that being said, if I've earned your subscription, please nail it now. Hit the like if you liked it, dislike, whatever. And I hope to get a comment from you on like what to watch or what your thoughts are. But other than that, I am sure of it. I'll catch you on the next video.